Thank you. All right, so I do have one change. Consent agenda, we added item 7.27, vehicle maintenance, inspection, and repair agreement with vehicle lease option between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Destin High School, presented by Jay McGinnis, Program Director, Transportation, and recommended by the school board by the superintendent for approval. And then tonight, Section 3, recognitions. We have two of those. 3.1, proclamation to recognize the month of September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, presented by the superintendent. And then 3.2, Ann Johnston and Helen Harris, representatives on behalf of Okaloosa Public Arts, donation in the amount of $14,040 for distribution among each high school that has an art program.
That's always great.
It is.
That
They
is.
do a phenomenal
That's so
job.
appreciated. That's wonderful. That organization comes through year after year. Appreciate them.
They do work hard for us. Section 4, administrative personnel appointments. Tonight, we don't have any of those. Section 5, public comment, the blue card edition. Of course, we won't know until we get here. Section 6, committee and staff reports, workshop only. 6.1, in-county travel, paid for August 2023. 6.2, out-of-county travel, paid for August 2023. Section 7, consent agenda. 7.1 tonight will be approval of the entire agenda. 7.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting of September 11, minutes of the regular meeting of September 11. 7.3, appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Shoal River Middle for an electronic sign in the amount of $5,000, presented by Dr. White. 7.4, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Shoal River Middle for an electronic sign in the amount of $8,733, presented by Mr. Bryant. 7.5, appropriation of District 5 School Board member capital outlay funds to to Shoal River Middle for an electronic sign in the amount of $12,000. 7.6, appropriation of District 5 School Board member capital outlay funds to Blue Water Elementary School for stage lighting in the amount of $6,671.42. 7.7, request to advertise a public hearing for adoption of revised School Board Policy 08-09, Duties, Ethics, and Professional Conduct, presented by Dr. Hale. 7.8, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Julie Perry. 7.9, school donations, presented by Julie Perry. 7.10, payroll warrant register and accounts payable warrant register totaling $34,957,197.40. Self-health insurance claims and fees totaling $2,700,337.15, and bank transfers totaling $25 million for September 2023. 7.11, permission to pay a materials and supplies stipend to qualified adult vocational teachers, behavior analysts, behavior interventionists, mental health counselors, occupational therapists, physical therapists, school psychologists, social workers, staffing specialists, instructional coaches, and consulting teachers.
Mr. Superintendent, will you remind me, is this a new item, or do we generally do this?
This is done annually.
Okay, that's what I thought. We've done this, and we've had all these different employees in this, or we added?
And
Same
so
as
the,
last year?
the same
Okay.
process as last year.
Okay, great. All right. I think it's wonderful. That's good. Thank you. What?
You need anything else, Ms. Vanchuk?
Well, I think they want to tell us something.
Last year, the last two were added, the consulting teachers and the one before it.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the other ones have been on there for years.
Yeah.
Yes, but these positions are not in the Florida statute where we give the funding to classroom teachers, to media specialists, to guidance counselors. So the board has always asked us to bring something so that we could pay these other instructional positions that are in the classrooms or creating instructional materials that are used in classrooms.
Which is why we have to approve it every year
Yes,
instead of
ma'am.
just putting it in the
Mhm.
regular
'Cause with the other
budget
one-
line.
Right, with the other one being in the statute, then
Mhm.
that's just something we automatically pay.
I see. Okay, all right,
Mhm.
thank you for clarifying that.
And all of these folks were not included in the Florida statute.
Correct.
Right.
So we're making it whole, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, we don't have to do this,
Right.
yeah, so, but it's good that we're doing it, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm so glad, because we went years without doing it, and in the last, couple of years here, well, maybe might be more than that, we have been recognizing these individuals because they do have their supplies, they pay out of pocket for materials
Yes.
that's
yes.
needed. So I appreciate that coming forward and us to support it or vote on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. 17.12, RFQ 24-32, Benchmark Education Company, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.13, request changes to ITB 19-05, Chemicals for Cooling Towers, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.14, tag-on bid purchase over $50,000, weatherproofing technologies, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.15, service agreement number 24-90, Kiara Watson, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.16, service agreement number 24-91, Ethica LLC, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.17, service agreement number 24-93, Logos Communication Therapy Services LLC, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.18, service agreement number 24-94, Northwest Florida State College, presented by Vince Wyndham. 7.19, self-help project to purchase new sign at Blue Water Elementary School, presented by Dr. Smith. 7.20, agreement to grant Florida Power and Light Company a 10-foot wide utility easement at Niceville High School. 7.21, joint use agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and the City of Crestview, Florida for Sands Spur Field, North Avenue in Crestview. 7.22, agreement to grant Florida Power and Light Company a 10-foot wide utility easement at Edwins Elementary School. 7.23, underground distribution facilities installation agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and Florida Power and Light Company at Edwins Elementary School. 7.24, Florida Safe Schools Assessment Tool District Best Practices, presented by Danny Dean. 7.25, contract for full-service schools between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida and the Department of Health in Okaloosa County, presented by Terry Schroeder. 7.26, professional learning catalog for the 2023-2024 school year, presented by Sharon Duran. And 7.27, vehicle maintenance, inspection, and repair agreement with vehicle lease option between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Destin High School. And that brings us to Section 8, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. 8.1 is information only, employees on administrative leave. 8.2, information only, deferred retirement option program. 8.3, department staffing restructure curriculum, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.4, out-of-field report for the 2023-2024 school year, presented by Sharon Duran. 8.5, employment separations, presented by Dr. Hale. 8.6, personnel recommendations presented by Dr. Hale. 8.7, employee transfers presented by Dr. Hale. 8.8, employee suspension. And 8.9, reinstatement, reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty illness, injury, or medical exam presented by Dr. Hale. And 8.10, leave without pay presented by Dr. Hale. Section 9, discussion agreement. We have one item. Request authorization for a submittal of a proposal to purchase a 7.6 acre vacant parcel of land located at 401 Beach Drive, Destin, Florida, which is contiguous to the boundary of Destin Elementary School campus, presented by Steve Horton.
And, Mr. Attorney, do you kind of want to just do is this a time okay,
Yep.
sorry.
I think
Oh, we're good, we're good.
I know, we've been
Mr.
talking.
Chambers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just want to remind the board, it was probably last board meeting, I spoke a little bit about the Destin land and kind of what was out there. And approximately about a month and a half ago, it was brought to our attention that land was available right next to Destin Elementary. And I just want to share just a little bit of information here as to why this is before us, and then ask Mr. McGinnis to also provide a little bit more clarification as to the process going forward. And I just want to say, as superintendent and in partnership with you, our board, I believe it's important for us to strategically assess land acquisition that may be beneficial for the school district. We all know that our schools, even with slowed growth, are over capacity. So knowing that, it's incumbent upon us to plan for future growth as well as shorter-term needs. With that said, we have started the planning and design process of a K-8 school in Crestview, as well as the grades 3 through 5 school in Destin, which will be a 32 classroom addition. And this will allow the 5th grade to come back to Destin Elementary. And this will also provide capacity at Destin Elementary along with Destin Middle School. We've also been actively pursuing land in other parts of Crestview and in the Niceville area for potential future schools. Additionally, we have looked at the land we own for the potential use of future development, such as our land in Shalimar, as well as our land in Niceville on Lancaster. Anytime land becomes available adjacent to one of our schools, I think it becomes worthy of our consideration for acquisition. We are currently applying this process in Baker and Niceville, and now in Destin. Like I said, a little over a month ago, it was brought to our attention that the land in Destin may be available. Initially, we contemplated we may want to acquire a portion of the land. However, as time passed, it became clear that we might want to acquire the entire parcel if a fair agreement could be reached. The additional acreage at Destin Elementary will allow for an even more efficient car rider pickup and drop-off line, which will help traffic congestion. And if you've ever been there during that time, you'll know what I mean. Additional retention, and also additional or recouped green space for students, especially with the return of 5th grade. And I think another important piece is this acquisition would allow for us, the school district, to control what is built directly next to the school. So what's before the board is a request to submit a proposal for this Destin site based upon my working with staff to develop a proposal. At this time, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. McGinnis to discuss the process.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and board members, so what is being proposed is that that a proposal would be put together based upon appraisals of the site. The current seller has, as part of their package, a agreement that's been approved through a bankruptcy court for purchase and sale. So it would be the thought, if you approve this, that we would use that format, although I would revise that to make it custom to our offer and to our procedures. When this is submitted, if you authorize this, it will not be a final contract. It will be in the form of a contract, but under state law, you can simply approve an option to purchase agreement, and then we have to advertise for a period of 30 days and conduct a public hearing, at which time you consider that and consider any comments, and then you can finally approve the purchase contract after that public hearing. And that's the standard process we follow when we're acquiring any type property. So in this scenario, the agreement would be put together and sent in to the seller for consideration through their broker. And if they accept it, we would bring that agreement back to the board and ask you to schedule a public hearing. We would then run notice of that. There's a 30-day waiting period, and then we would conduct a public hearing for you to take a final vote on a formal contract. In other words, the option agreement would be converted into a formal contract if you approved it after public hearing.
Anybody have
And so
comment?
all of that is included on 9.1, where it says motion to approve authorization for submittal of a proposal. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay.
The only thing we would do tonight, and when you're considering this, I would want the motion to make it clear that though we're submitting it through the real estate purchase and sale agreement, that it is initially only an option to purchase.
And should that motion be made, then that would be a point of clarification that you'll make.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know we had one appraisal. Do we have the second appraisal back, or?
There is a second appraisal back,
They're both
and
back, okay.
that's being evaluated today.
Okay.
And our timeline is going to intersect well with the timeline of the seller.
The seller through the broker have agreed to allow sufficient time for us to submit a
Okay.
proposal.
Super.
But it would need to be done this week, likely, if that's what the board
All right.
approves.
Super.
So, the seller, have they put a price on the property that we've been given, or are we just waiting on those appraisals before we even look at that?
We're waiting on appraisals to determine what it appears the value is. As I understand it, there's not a published listing price on the property.
Okay, so then we would make an offer, is that if we decide to go that way?
That's correct.
Okay, and then would, we're not looking at, or are we looking at, getting this property with any other entity locally, like another government? It's gonna be strictly our property if we do this?
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else? Before I call up our speaker, I do know that sitting right here, you have two former principals in the Destin area, and I think we would concur with the superintendent's recommendation for sure, but more to happen tonight. So I have a yellow card from Parker Destin at 730 Kelly Street, Destin, Florida. Would you pass that down to Mary, please?
Well, I
Thank you.
appreciate you perhaps setting aside the agenda to allow me to speak, and I only speak on my behalf, but I just wanted to simply convey, I think, the great sense of relief and gratitude from a lot of the families in the city of Destin who are, I think, very excited at the prospect of this district, this board, the superintendent, your staff, to have conveyed what clearly is a lot of heartening statements with the foresight and the wisdom to acquire this property. I believe in their bones, everyone's very excited. It's an anecdotal assessment, but I did a pretty decent sample size. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of families that are very, very excited because they know how much that this is needed, and they're also very genuinely excited at the idea that even though everybody from this board comes from different geographic areas, and it's not always common in politics, but it's clear that this board and the superintendent understand that we govern from a place of what is good for everyone, and that they care deeply about the needs of the families in the community in Destin. So I merely wanted to offer a conveyance of the appreciation, because sometimes that's few and far between in public service, but it's out there, and hopefully this goes the right direction. And those are only my comments. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Destin, I just want to say, some of the families, sorry, allergies coming in. What I'm really hearing is that, and Mr. Chambers, you mentioned it, that with the district purchasing all that land, we have control over what may possibly purchase that and move in close to an elementary school. So that's been the biggest thing
Yep.
that I've been hearing.
Yep, exactly. I think it's actually perhaps a lot of people's preference that the district be the one that
Yes.
fully acquires it, because we know that you guys will do the best with it and probably the best result, so, for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I think that, as you mentioned, Mr. Chambers, that, anytime we can look at some land acquisition, it's a positive thing, because of course, we all know we can't make any more land, but I particularly know in the south end of the county, land is becoming scarce, particularly the size we would need when you're dealing with schools, but also, to back up what you're saying, all of us have concerns about what other entities might go in property near an elementary school. And if it's public property, we don't, and it's, good sale, we don't have any control over that. But if we purchase that, not only does it relieve a situation coming, with Destin Elementary, but it keeps the control of positive stuff right there by where kids are coming and going. So I think it's certainly something we would look at that. And so as we move forward, we will look at, right, how we're going to budget this, correct? If we agree with this tonight, then we'll get into budgeting.
Oh, absolutely. We've already taken that into account.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, that moves us to section 10, 10.1, program status report by the board's representative to the construction program. I don't believe Mr. Bryant will be with us tonight, but I'm sure next time he will give us a thorough report. 10.2, TPM program number 6, task order number 40, pre-GMP for roof replacement projects at Meigs Middle School and Pryor Middle School. 10.3, TPM program number 6, task order number 2, scope modification number 7, school security and fencing. 10.4, TPM program number 6, task order number 12, scope modification number 1 to sales tax COP projects. 10.5, TPM program number 6, task order number 16, scope modification number 1 of phase 2 front entry canopy projects. 10.6, TPM program number 6, task order number 19, scope modification number 1, canopy replacement from storm damage. That brings us to section 11, attorney's business,
No report this morning, Madam Chairman.
and section 12, superintendent's business. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a few announcements that I would like to make, and then I'd also like Mr. Horton to come forward in a moment to also just give a little bit of an enrollment update on where we are, especially with FTE approaching. I do want to start with a congratulatory piece for one of our schools in our school district, STEM, our STEM Academy. They received the prestigious recognition of a National Blue Ribbon School. And one of 13 schools in the state of Florida have received this designation, one of 353 schools nationwide, and you think about the thousands upon thousands of schools that we have. So just want to really give a shout out to STEM, to their students, families, their teachers, staff, and to Dr. Martin over there. This is a big deal. So before I go forward, some of you might have some remarks. I know this is in your school district, Dr. Kelly, but I had to say it.
I know. You do that pretty often, but absolutely, Dr. Martin and her staff have worked tremendously hard over there, and they put in some new programs and some new equipment has been installed over there, and they've worked tremendously hard for this award. And something tickled the back of my brain while you were talking. I hearkened back to when I had a district level position, and you were a principal, and one of your schools was named a Blue Ribbon School. So congratulations again on that. But
Thank you.
definitely they have worked very hard, and that was on my list as well. So thank you. Anything else from Superintendent before?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Morton?
So I think the last time we were together, we shared that Hope Squad had an event here. Over 200 kids took part in this event, and I know, Dr. Kelly, you might also have some words about that, but I just do want to thank Ms. Schroeder, Ms. Lamb, and their department in terms of really putting this together, our schools coming together for this event, but 200 students coming together for such a worthwhile event, and I'll let you share more of the details of that, but just something really, really good for our school district. Also, I want to let the board know that we're in the process right now of looking at our legislative priorities for the upcoming year. Now, here we are, it's September, and we're looking at the legislative priorities for the 24-25 school year. But as you know, the state legislature, they're already having meetings and different conversations as they look at their priorities. But our FADS staff, which is the Superintendent's Association, is putting together their legislative priorities. I know the School Board Association is as well. And we will do the same as a school district that eventually we will bring back to you to get a kind of formal approval of what we would like our legislative priority to be. So we'll be speaking with each of you individually as we put together our legislative priorities. Mr. Horton is one who's helping me go through this process, but our entire staff will be looking at it from each department and say, what can we do to really continue to make a difference in public education? If you remember last year, we were able to help champion the extended drop. And Senator Broxton actually mentioned us as a school district that helped get that out there, and then FADS also adopted it as well. So it shows that when you do take part in the legislative process, you can get things done. So we'll definitely take part in that process again alongside each of you. And Mr. Horton, if you'd come forward with an enrollment update.
Mr. Horton didn't
morning.
have
No
his brace
assistance.
Right,
on.
there's
I
a leg there.
know.
I'll do my exercise while I'm up
Congratulations.
here. It's basically at my own risk, walking without it. They said it's okay. So just giving you an enrollment update, I mentioned a board meeting or two ago that we were under our projection and we're planning to make sure that the reserves that are in place and the teacher allocation pieces would offset any shortfall in projection. So we're about where we were at the very end of August. So about 380 students below our projection across all of our 38 schools. And of course, you see growth in some areas and shortfalls in some others. So I think the important thing is not putting teaching positions out there in places where they're not needed. And so we're still at about that point where we were about a month ago. So which is, on the one hand, good that we're not seeing a decline in enrollment. We looked after the Labor Day piece for growth at the kindergarten level particularly. Didn't see a whole lot of that, but we're about at that number of about 380 students below our projection, which is a little over 1% when you look at the whole district across the board.
I just want to add to one piece I wouldn't want to gloss over the teacher allocations, because as you know, in the March-April timeframe, Mr. Horton works with Ms. Perry and says, what is the number of teacher allocations that we can utilize in terms of what gets allocated to schools, in terms of class size and so forth. So we have the ability to put all of those teacher allocations out there. But Mr. Horton, working with Ms. Perry and Dr. Hale in HR, they're very judicious with the allocations that go out. So I just absolutely appreciate that piece. And I also think we're in a new, what I call public education has changed. When you start looking at FTE projections and you look at the impact of family empowerment scholarships. So that's something that I think school districts across the state are getting a hand on. But I just appreciate the fact Ms. Perry being very wise with the FTE reserve, and Mr. Horton working with staff on the teacher allocations to make sure that we're able to weather a shortfall in FTE projections.
Absolutely appreciated. Thank you. Okay, and was that all, Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that brings us to board members' announcements and/or request for information. I think I'll start with Dr. White today.
I'll have some comments tonight, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Gardner?
I think I'm also going to wait till tonight. Maybe
All
my
right.
voice will be, I do have several things.
Okay. Ms. Evancho?
I'm not waiting.
Go for it.
I have a couple of things. Okay, so, first of all, first I want to congratulate Mr. Chambers on being named to the superintendent's board. We're glad to have you down there. You always represent us well, but I think that will be an added advantage to us, and you'll be really in on everything that's going on. So how long is that term that you'll be in that?
So they have not shared with me the duration. I think
That might not be a good thing.
It's one of those indefinites.
some of them who have been on there have been on there a while. I'll just say that.
So maybe for the rest of your term here.
That's right.
from the
That would be
next one.
nice.
That would be
Yeah.
good, so that's.
Be good for us.
That's, well, that just added to your meeting list, didn't it? Yeah, so.
Yes, ma'am.
That's great to have you down there and with you and then with, having Mr. Bryant doing the things, that's, great for Okaloosa. And, they'll finally know where we are over here, so that's great, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. So, I want to talk a little bit about the Public Schools Foundation. It is fall, and that means our barbecue and bingo's coming up. This is our main fundraiser where we have a lot of fun. It's going to be at the Clubhouse Grill there in Fort Walton, across from the fairgrounds, and on October 24th. And come on out. You know, it takes care of your dinner that night, a little date night, whatever. Maybe win some bingo. I never win, but that's okay. It's a lot of fun, and we'll be selling tickets. And of course, all the funds that we get go to our teacher grants, so that teachers can have a little extra money to do some great projects in their classroom. And of course, we also do our student scholarships. So it goes to fund. It's been very popular. So I'm hoping if you're out there and you have a business and you'd like to be a sponsor, we will definitely make a fuss over you for helping us out. We're very good at that. So if you'll just contact the public schools office, 833-5856, and talk with Debbie Tate, she'll get you all set. But we're excited about that. So I'm hoping some of you can come out. It's a lot of fun. And you get to see Mr. Horton really work.
Yeah, right.
He works hard out there, so. And one other thing, I want to congratulate a local citizen named Mr. Bill Dillman. Mr. Dillman recently retired last week from 26 years of working with the Goodwill of the Emerald Coast, Gulf Coast. And he's been a partner with the school district for a long time and doing a lot of different things. So we want to wish him well in his retirement and appreciate all he has done to help students. He does a lot of things in helping many of our students who have some needs of clothing, all kinds of things that he comes through with, and we appreciate him, and so good luck in retirement. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a few, excuse me, and then I'll bring us back to another point of business for the board. So first of all, happy fall. We have entered officially the season of fall, and I'm loving the change in the weather. And I wanted to send congratulations to former Okaloosa County School District student from Crestview. I'm sure Mr. Bryant would have announced this were he here today. As Glenn, we knew him as Donovan at our school up in Crestview, Singletary, as the Okaloosa County Commission has approved a proclamation designating his birthday, October 23rd, as Donovan Singletary Day. And he's a Crestview native, a well-known athlete, and world-renowned operatic performer and performing arts scholar. So I thought you'd be interested in hearing about that. Of course, I couldn't go by without saying congratulations to the Niceville Eagles on their recent win, 42-21. And I know you all saw, congratulations again. I was able to attend the 40 Under 40 program put on by our local United Way, and supported one of my former students, Allison Morris, as she was one of those recipients of the 40 Under 40 award. Allison is an entrepreneur and a talent agent. Also recognized that you would know, I mean, obviously there were 39 others, but our local Kevin Schmidt, Nikki Cobble, who was also another Destin Middle School student of mine, and Abby Saul, names that you might all know. And of course, you know how I love to keep us up to date with our calendar. Our parents and our students recognize that we are now fewer than 10 days away till the end of the first 9 weeks grading period. So keep that in mind. I also had on there congratulations to Dr. Martin and her staff for their Blue Ribbon Award. And you mentioned legislative priorities. As I mentioned to you last time, please let's continue to keep student mental health on that list and mental wellness. So thank you. That's all I have for my announcements this morning, but I need to bring us back to 13.1, designation of one of our school board members to serve as the board's representative to the Educational Support Professional of the Year Selection Committee. So we'll ask if anyone wants to keep it? Someone who had
So
it?
you
or-
still have that, right?
I'm-
You have that.
Yes, I've done it in the past. I'm more than happy to do it again. It's a great committee to be on, but if anybody wants to be on it also, we can talk about it tonight. So,
Thought that would be
but
the case.
Yep.
but-
Mhm.
All righty, thank you. And then that would bring us to section 14, public comment, the yellow card version. And then we do have 15.1, a public hearing for adoption of resolution 23-07, approving the proposed purchase and sale agreement of real estate properties as discussed earlier. This one is between our school district and the Okaloosa County Teachers Federal Credit Union, presented by Dr. Bill Smith.
Madam Chair, for tonight, we would ask that the board continue or reschedule that public hearing. We're waiting on additional information, and we would just ask it be rescheduled and allow the chairman to set that as soon as we're ready to bring it forward. So we would just vote on that tonight at this portion of your meeting.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have a comment or announcement for the good of the order? Anybody from the executive staff? Anybody on the district staff? Patrick? All right, anybody else? Then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.